guys, welcome to the 8th episode of the Andy Campbell Championship Show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I'm your co-host, Si, and I'm joined by ex-Championship striker, Cardiff City legend, Mr. Andy Campbell, to talk the weekend goings-on in the Sky Bet Championship. Welcome, Andy.
Evening, mate.
Great to have you back on. I seen you yesterday as well, which was
good.
Yes,
you did. Yeah, of course. It was great to catch up, mate.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee and a catch-up as you came to God's country.
Yes, I did. I brought the weather with me, apparently.
Oh, yeah, Jesus Christ. It's like, it was Saturday, wasn't it? But like when we met up yesterday, it was hammering down.
Yeah, it was brutal, mate. It was horrible.
I was saying to you, like, it was all right. By the time the afternoon came and I watched my boy play, it was all right. It was good. So
yeah, picked up. Good luck.
Didn't get wet, which was good. But so you enjoyed your country in Wales's capital.
Yeah, enjoyed my weekend back, and we're going to talk about the game that I went to very soon, and it was nice to come back. Lovely.
Yeah, heroes welcome as well.
Yeah, I did. Thankfully, it was nice.
And you met some of my friends as well.
I did. Bonus.
So just a couple of plugs, guys, before we get going with the games. All the shows and series are available in video format. youtube.com/AcePodcastNation, and audio at the usual podcasting platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio as well now, and loads of others as well. We've also got a brand new MMA series launching the weekend of the 5th of October, the Danny Batten MMA show, where myself and former Cage Warriors featherweight champion Danny Batten will be breaking down UFC 243. I'm thrilled to welcome Danny on board. It's going to be a good crack. Today's show is brought to you by Away Day Apparel, as usual. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people, with football, music, and weekend carnage high on the agenda. They aim to bring you some exclusive products. They are edgy, controversial, but most importantly, current. From t-shirts, polos, shorts to hoodies, jackets and accessories, stick with them, and they aim to bring you terrace wear that will turn heads and provide the cutting-edge look that we all crave. So, away to go we go. It was a very interesting weekend, mate.
It was, yeah. It was. There were some big games, some huge games. Leeds Derby, always a big game with history. Middlesbrough Cardiff, obviously. Sheffield Wednesday, Fulham, Bristol City, Swansea City. Some big games at the top of the table. Some big games at the bottom of the table. I know that it's early doors. Birmingham at home to Preston North End. Another big game, which teams are surprising everybody. I know we'll go through that. But no, it was another action-packed weekend as well, with own goals, goalkeeping mistakes, and a few more.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like, I can't remember if we said it on the show or if we said it off air last week, that we said you don't get very many 0-0s in the championship, and then lo and behold, I think there was 2, maybe 3 this week. But
there's a couple.
Sod's law. So we'll start with the big game of the weekend: Cardiff versus Middlesbrough, which is always a difficult one for you, isn't it?
Yeah, difficult one for me, because especially being either way, you know what I mean. Difficult for me being at Cardiff, because obviously a lot of my friends came to the game as well from Middlesbrough, and it's trying to keep everybody happy. But I thought Middlesbrough were dreadful. I'll be honest. We spoke about it yesterday. They just didn't get started. They couldn't get off to a worse start if they tried. To be honest, you know what I mean. They were sloppy coming out the blocks, and when they got the first corner. I thought to myself straight away, I seen all the big guns going forward. I seen Middlesbrough backing off a little bit, and it was a brilliant ball in, and Ashley Fletcher got to it first and headed it into his own goal, and it was just disastrous. And from then on, it didn't really get much better for them. All right, the scoreline didn't get any better. I didn't get any worse, sorry, but they just had a lack of shots, a lack of creativity, just a lack of anything really, and it's worrying times. You know what I mean? I've spoke to a few people today. I've been on the local radio, and it's concerning for me, because you know what I mean. Being a Middlesbrough fan, you want your hometown and your club to do really well. But people talk about this transition period, and the transition period, all right, is it can take up to 2, 3, 4 seasons. But you know what I mean. When you've been used to success and used to good times, and you've got probably the best chairman in British football, looking after your football club. I don't see a transition working at that club. I honestly don't. I see in a year's time that they panic and do something else, or go down the route that they've gone down previously. And you know what I mean? It's worrying. You know what I mean? But it'll have to unfold this season and see what happens. I just hope it doesn't go really really bad for them, because Saturday was really worrying. They just lacked everything, and Cardiff probably weren't much better on the day, but they didn't need to be. You know what I mean? We spoke about this yesterday, that if they'd have got out of first, second, and third gear, they could have beaten them 2, 3, 4, 5 if they wanted to comfortably. You know what I mean? Gratzel didn't play, which I was disappointed about, but obviously he was ill, he couldn't play. I was really looking forward to him to play, but the best player in the park for me, Gavin White. He was absolutely outstanding. Every time he got the ball, he tried to make something happen. I haven't seen anybody so direct and quick for a very long time, and I was so impressed with him. And I was impressed defensively with them. I know I spoke about Aidan Flint on here quite a bit, because I was a big fan at Middlesbrough. You know, I know that things didn't work out the way that he wanted and the fans wanted and the club wanted, but I always thought he had quality, and cream always rises. You know what I mean? And I thought on Saturday he was immense, towering, won every header, won every battle. He had British Sambolonga in his pocket, and fully deserved his clean sheet. And he probably should have scored at the other end as well with a header in the second half. So it could have been a bittersweet day for him, really. But Cardiff deserved the win, and it's a good run for them to be on now, drawing away, winning at home, and they just need to get to that next level and start scoring more goals, I believe.
Yeah, so I'll start on Cardiff, and then I'll quickly want to ask you something about Middlesbrough. But you said something interesting just then, and you said something similar yesterday about when the corner came in, you thought you saw all the height that Cardiff had. And you said yesterday to me that you felt like if Robert Glatzel had played, they probably would have scored a couple more.
Yeah.
Because I think they had the Cardiff hit the bar from a header.
Yeah, Bogle, yeah.
You know, with that bit of extra height, you get a bit more control with it. And Cardiff, they are a big team. I agree with you. I thought Gavin White was excellent. But like Cardiff are in this unique position where they've got Gavin White, Murphy, and Mendes-Latin, who on their day are three of the best wingers in the Championship on their day. Unfortunately, all three of them can be. I take Gavin White out of that, because everything I've seen of Gavin White so far since he's joined Cardiff, he's been excellent. But the other two, Murphy and Mendes-Latin, they can be hit and miss. Like they could, one week they can turn up and they can play amazing, and you think, oof, hope we can hold on to these this year. And then the next game, they look terrible. I think a big problem is sometimes Cardiff go too direct, and they don't use the width enough to perhaps utilise their skills. I suppose I should also say, like, I slaughtered Bakuna last week. I thought he was really sloppy last week. I thought he was careless on the ball. He looked off balance. He just nothing was going right for him. Whereas on Saturday, I thought he was excellent.
He was top draw.
He controlled everything. But I did think Cardiff were great, but they did enough to, they deserved to win, I thought. With Boro, so we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, but for me, like the last couple of managers, so say like the last 3 years of Middlesbrough's managers, they've all been quite defensive minded.
Yeah.
So to me, it takes, you can't, how long's Woodgate been in charge? Since summer?
Since the summer, July-ish, yeah.
So you're like, it's not even, 3 months?
No, I agree. My concern is he's got the same players as the previous managers have had, so they're all defensive-minded players. He's got centre forwards for me who they're probably not suited to probably play together. So he's got Rudy Gestede and British Sambolonga. For me, if you want to go a little bit more direct and go for flick-ons and then get British Sambolonga running in behind, which would work. But he doesn't like to play Rudy Gestede. He's brought in a couple of wide men from West Ham, from lower league clubs, and I've been brought up with Middlesbrough signing international class footballers. I've been, you know what I mean, at Premier League players and the top end of the Championship, and you know what I mean. I hope he gets it right. I hope the whole infrastructure is put in place for the club to do well, and he is given time. My concern is that I know the fans do get impatient, like any supporters. You know what I mean? Are they going to wait 3 years for success to turn around? Because in 3 years' time, this Championship League is going to be potentially 30 times harder than it is today, because who knows who's going to be in it. You know what I mean? And it's just going to coincide with, you know what I mean, the money could be ridiculous. Teams could be spending a fortune. You could be having a Salford City, for example, in 3 years' time, could be into the Championship spending X amount of money for the class 92. You just don't know what's around the corner. You know what I mean? And money talks, and you know what I mean. What I don't want to do is Middlesbrough just get passed by and just be happy being a mid-table club, and you know what I mean. And over the years, I look at Preston North End, who've been a selling club. I don't want Middlesbrough to become a selling club. I want Middlesbrough to be I'd be happy with them be a yo-yo club up to the Premier League, getting relegated. I'd be content with that, because they're never going to win the Premier League in my lifetime. You know what I mean? Well, I say that. Leicester City fans probably said that, but in my lifetime, I don't believe it will happen. So, you know what I mean? But I'd be happy with 1 year seeing Premier League teams or a good cup run, and I just want success, but a little bit of it. You know what I mean? I'm not greedy. I just want it to be competitive, and I didn't see that on Saturday. I'll be honest. I didn't see the competitiveness. I didn't see you know what I mean? I didn't see the attacking, pressing, aggressive football which has been promised to supporters. And you know what I mean? If that's what's promised, then people need to deliver.
Yeah, and I suppose you don't want them to go the other way and be a yo-yo club like a Peterborough, who go up and down between League One and Championship.
Yeah.
So there's that worry. You know, I said to you yesterday, it's like if they sack Woodgate, is like, who do you bring in really? Who's going to be able to do anything different with those players?
Nobody. Well, the money talks as well, mate, doesn't it? So who's gonna come in? Who's gonna want to come into that football club? Someone's going to want to come in who sees the dollar signs, who sees the potential of spending loads of money, and that football club's not going down that route anymore. So, you know what I mean? It's cutting its cloth. You know what I mean? It's done it when Tony Mowbray was in charge 4 managers ago. You know what I mean? Karanka spent a lot of money. Gary Monk spent a lot of money. They're having to now just reevaluate themselves and bring it all back in and start again a little bit. You know what I mean? Which is a sensible decision for business, but at the same time, it's a football club, and the area demands and wants success. And same as anywhere. You know what I mean? We're football fans. At the end of the day, we're all competitive. We want to win, and you know what I mean. And I'm sure, you know what I mean. I seen the Middlesbrough staff who was sat quite close to me at the Middlesbrough game, and they weren't happy. They weren't happy what was going on. So if they weren't happy, you know what I mean, they'll demand more from the manager and the staff and the players, and if that means pushing them to the limits or getting brand new players in January, then so be it.
Indeed, and my view on football, or modern football, shall we say, is if the Man United fans turn on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then nobody's got any hope.
No,
they've already started to turn on social media, so give it till Christmas.
Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe now. You know what I mean? You see managers losing the job after 3 games in the Championship. There's nobody safe now. So if people are saying give him longer than 3 months, nobody's safe. You know what I mean? It could be soon. It's going to be 1 game that somebody's going to end up getting the sack after a defeat. You know what I mean? Like, fair play to Watford. You know, I thought Watford after Saturday might have pressed the panic button and sacked the manager after 8-0 defeat. But you take things into context. You know what I mean? That sometimes you play against a team who's got better footballers than you, and you get heavily beaten. You don't want to get heavily beaten.
Day as well, can you?
But yeah, you know what I mean. You take it on the chin and you dust yourself down, and one day, you know what I mean. One day the tides might turn. You just don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think overall, Cardiff deserved to win the game, but
yeah, they did.
That's what I was going to say. Sorry, on Middlesbrough is I think you've got to give Woodgate, you've got to give him the January window to try and bring in a couple of players, and then give, if by May time, when the season's starting to wind down, they're not getting relegated and they're not getting promoted or they're not in the playoffs, and they want to get rid of him, then that's fine, because you can start building for next year. You've got to give him 1 full transfer window to try and build because otherwise it's just not his team anyway.
No. Well, I said on the radio this afternoon, I said personally I'd give him I'd give him a full summer, because he took over in July. In July, the players came back anyway, so I think he had a week to prepare the players and everything for the start of the season. That's not a long time at all. You know what I mean? Some managers prepared this season from May the 31st, sorry, when the season finished, straight away preparing, bringing new players in, getting lads who are out of contract. You know what I mean? They haven't had that luxury, and we just need. The club just needs to get things into perspective a little bit, and fans need to back him. He's a Middlesbrough boy. He wants the club to do well, like we all do. But sometimes, you know what I mean, I'm contradicting myself here, because I am greedy, but I want him to do well, and I don't want to press the panic button. But it's sometimes, yeah. Sometimes your emotions get the better of you.
Yeah, they were bad on Saturday as well, which I think that escalates all the negative emotions which you've got about how the teams play and generally.
Well, I think it's worse when you watch it live, because when you watch it live, you see the whole 90 minutes. That they're bad for 90 minutes. If you watch the highlights, they're only bad for 5 minutes. Bad. Yeah, they don't look as bad because they have a shot now and again. But to be fair, you could have watched the highlights for about a week. You still wouldn't have had a shot on target, so it doesn't really matter.
Rudy Gestede, just to finish off quickly, when he was at Cardiff, I thought he was going to be a real decent Championship player, maybe Premier League player. He was strong and young and quite pacey, and he went to Blackburn and then he gone to Middlesbrough. He doesn't seem to ever play for Middlesbrough.
I can't remember him playing more than a couple of games. He's been on the bench a couple of times. He fell out with the supporters big time.
Did he?
There was a game last year. We played Newport in the FA Cup. We got beat 2-0 live on TV, and he was saying some not very nice things towards supporters after a heavy defeat. And you can't do things like that. Supporters pay your wages, and they travel a long way to watch their football club. And you know what I mean. The least you can do when you win, lose, or draw is go over, clap them, throw your shirt in the crowd now and again. Yeah, it's just a courtesy thing to do, and you know what I mean. You don't do and say things that, especially if you love the club or you want to play for the club. If you don't, then maybe that was a tactic to get him out. But if it was, it's backfired massively, because he's still there and he's just not playing. So I don't know who's there. I don't know who the winner is there, because he's not playing, but the club paying his wages. So it's just a nightmare all around for everybody.
Like, to me, like, only going on what he was like for Cardiff, where I saw him week in, week out, and him versus what's the other striker, Asumbalonga.
Yeah.
If I was picking out the two, and I wanted to play a bit more attacking football, I'd play Gestede, because he can go in the air, he can go on the deck, he can go in behind, whereas Asumbalonga is perhaps a bit more direct option.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's like, I could be like 3 years out of date with that, because obviously he hadn't been at Cardiff for a long time, and he was younger and hungrier, and he came over from France.
I think that's the key. It's the hunger. You know what I mean? I look at some players and they're comfortable being on the big contract at a football club, because who's going to take him from where he is now? Who's going to give him the contract that he's getting now? And it's nobody. And there's the answer. Unless he goes abroad and he gets a free transfer. But Middlesbrough probably would like to recoup some of the transfer fee that they paid for him. And you know what I mean?
The thing is, Andy, he came over from France to Cardiff on probably a decent contract, not massive because he was young. Then he's had a big move to Blackburn, he'd have had been on a decent contract because
very good.
The fee they paid, and then he's gone to Middlesbrough. So he's he's not scratching around for money down the back of the sofa. So it's down to motivation, whether he wants to, he wants to play week in, week out, and if the motivation's not there.
Well, footballers should want to play. Footballers should want to play week in, week out. And if they don't, there's a big problem there. You know what I mean? Because it's such a shame. We spoke about it, didn't we, a few weeks ago? You know what I mean? Footballers are paid to play football. If you don't play football, you know what I mean? What's the point? If you don't go to work and do your job, then you know what I mean. There's something not right. There's something not right, especially the love of football. Because you know what I mean. I don't think I've come across a footballer who doesn't love doing what they do, and there's no point training all week if you haven't got that carrot at the end of the Saturday. It's just a pointless exercise.
Yeah, I saw him, just going completely off subject. I saw a Q&A yesterday with Shane Warne, cricketer, and he was saying that when he came into international cricket, like, he was still working a day job when he first came in, like early 20s, and he was saying as he became more successful, obviously there was money there, but compared to now, it's like two different worlds. There's millions around. And he said, but at his, when he was playing at his pomp, it was all about like passion and wanting to break records and, really push himself to see how good he could be and what he could what he could do. Whereas he says now he thinks that cricketers or footballers, they see it more as a job which pays their wages as opposed to like I don't know, like I wouldn't say a passion thing because it's all footballers dream of it from when they're younger, but I do wonder whether the kind of urge and the motivation to play every week and to try and get to the very top of the game has changed slightly over the last 10 years, where the money, even mediocre players in the championship can be, if they've been at a good season and had a good move, they can be on thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds a week, and maybe the motivation's not there.
Yeah, I agree.
But sorry, completely off subject. Okay, so next game was, this is why we take so long, isn't it? Because I just veer off into all sorts. Luton 0, Hull City 3, international break.
Luton Town, like I feel so sorry for them, and now I think after this Saturday, I am really worried for them. Really, really worried that that. All right, they're not bottom of the league. They're not rock bottom. They're not, Kenilworth Road is still a hard place to go, but not for Hull City on Saturday. On Saturday, it looked like a walk in the park. You know what I mean? The first half, Hull should have been 3 or 4 ahead. They had some gilt-edged chances which they didn't take. And fair play to Hull. You know what I mean? They carried it on second half, which normally, if you have a strong first half, normally Hull, you know what I mean? Or normally Luton will come back into it second half, but that didn't happen really in the second half. Hull carried on. They scored with a decent strike from Stewart to get them 1-0 up. Luton probably should have equalised off a set piece just before Grzycki got the second, which the goalkeeper should have saved, by the way, one of many goalkeeping mistakes this weekend. And then the final nail in the coffin was the own goal. And I'm going to speak about the own goal later on because I thought it was absolutely disastrous because we're on about 2 professional footballers here. You know what I mean? 2 professional footballers who are going for the same ball. This should not happen in professional football. And to happen in the Championship, which is so publicised, it's hilarious because it just shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? It just shouldn't happen. And the player who's got the own goal, I can't believe he's got it because he's given it to the Potts, who's the defender, but he's kicked it at the goalkeeper. So it's a goalkeeper's own goal. So it's just there's so many wrongdoings with it. But bigger picture, Luton Town, they've been absolutely ruined by the international break. Before the international break, they were sitting high in the Championship. They were looking comfortable, battling away with teams. They'd played some of the top side in the Championship and ran them all close. Drew with Middlesbrough, just got beat by Cardiff. You know what I mean? And then they're playing, for me, some of the poorer sides in the Championship over the last couple of weeks, and they've been heavily beaten a couple of times, and they need to be very careful because there's no sentiment in the Championship, and every single team, when they're 2-0 up, 3-0 up against you, they want to go and make it 4, 5, and 6, and there's a lot better teams than Hull City around, and if they're going to defend like they did on Saturday against the West Brom, against the Leeds United, they could take an absolute beating this season if they're not careful.
Oh God, yeah, they could take a pasting, couldn't they? I mean, the frustrating thing is, I would imagine for Luton fans, is before the international break, they weren't just holding their own, running teams close. They were winning games and they were picking up points. So
and they were scoring goals as well, scoring a lot of goals.
Yeah. And they would have looked at these games coming up, and they would have thought, "God, if we can keep this form going, we could be sitting pretty by Christmas. They could be really almost safe by Christmas." And the international breaks come and it's completely cut their legs away. I thought Grzycki for Hull was outstanding.
Yeah, I like him. I like him a lot.
The first half, I didn't think Hull were that great in the first half. They were all right, and Luton were not. But the second half, Hull really I thought they went up a gear, and they just looked better all round of the pitch. But yeah, it's like individual errors, isn't it? You had the second goal is just a big long ball. The third goal is comical. And,
well, to be fair,
when you take those two things out, it's 1-0.
The first goal was a decent strike, but he hit it in the floor. It could have gone anywhere. The second goal, the keeper probably should have had it. There should have been a level before that. It's small margins, and The last goal's rubbish. You know what I mean? It's a rubbish goal to concede, but you know what I mean. They need to make sure those small margins are just small the other way, and because if they get the equaliser at the right time, they're potentially going on to win the game instead of being a 3-0 game, because it probably wasn't a 3-0 game, but that's a result in Hull City going away with a 3-0 win. It just sometimes it flatters, and you know what I mean. I think we were just speaking about Cardiff. You know what I mean. The Cardiff aren't putting the chances away, whereas you know what I mean. Hull City probably wasn't a 3-0 game, but you're taking a 3-0 victory away from Luton Town, and you know what I mean. I watched Middlesbrough there start of the season, and Middlesbrough drew their 3-3, and probably Luton's chances what they had, they put them in the back of the net, but that's what it is. The Championship football is so cutthroat that you've got to take your chances. You can't afford not to, and at the minute they're getting punished for every little mistake, and they're not putting the chances away when they get them. And you know what I mean, fine margins, but they need to get this right because they don't want to fall into that trap. Because I know we're going to talk about them soon, but Huddersfield Town look like they're picking up a little. Stoke City picking up a little bit. So what they can't afford to do is get brought into that trap because they might get swallowed up if they're not careful.
Yeah, and I think with Hull as well, what they've done is they started off the season a bit sort of stop-start. But the last couple of weeks, they've really kicked on and they really look quite dangerous going forward. You know, Jared Bowen's been scoring all season. But like they're scoring goals and they've shored it up at the back, so they're not conceding. Yeah. And, you know, they've got a very, very good squad. You know, if they can keep doing that, they've got a good, you know, as good a chance as anyone.
Yeah, I agree.
And, you know, hopefully Luton, because I enjoy watching Luton. You know, as like we said in the preview show, they're a proper football club, but we were both happy to see them back in a championship. And I think it would be a real shame if they now kind of fall away after that really promising, entertaining start of the season.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I look at Kenilworth Road side. Kenilworth Road for me is it's a proper football ground. It's a proper football club. You know what I mean? It's always a sellout. You know what I mean? The atmosphere is very good. And what I don't want to do is Luton to die away and the fans to get a little bit disheartened and the atmosphere to not be as good, because when it's not as tight and you know what I mean, the atmosphere is not as it's not bouncing, then teams won't be intimidated to go there. And you know what I mean? Then they'll start playing their expansive football, and that's when the goals going in. You know what I mean? Because already so far this season, you know what I mean? They've let in 2 against West Brom, they've let in 3 against Middlesbrough, they've let in 3 today. You know what I mean? They've let in 1 against Huddersfield, so they've scored 2 against Huddersfield. So they've seen a lot of goals at Kenilworth Road this season. They've been treated to a lot of goals. They just need to make sure that more are going in the opposition's end than they are in their own, because it's a tough division, and I think they're finding out the hard way at the minute.
Yeah, I wanted to clarify. I said I didn't think Hull were very good in the first half. I actually, maybe not that they weren't very good. I just thought they showed Luton a bit too much respect. Maybe they just kind of stood off them a bit, and they was quite lethargic going forward. It wasn't like high energy, and then as soon as the second half started, it was high press, high energy. They were breaking quickly, and then they were creating opportunities.
Forcing mistakes,
and then the mistakes.
But I think that's a league all over, mate. You know what I mean? That I think the teams who press high and do the right things are the teams who are creating more chances. The teams who are forcing mistakes within the team, and you know what I mean. And then you see mistake after mistake, but it's the teams who are going for games. For me at the minute, and they're the teams who are doing well in the league, and you know what I mean. Teams need to probably go for games a little bit more. And if you lose the game by going for it, you haven't lost anything. You're going to probably get more points during the season by doing that instead of sitting off hoping for something to happen. Because for me, that's what Luton looked like on Saturday. They looked like they were hoping for an equaliser, hoping for something to fall at their feet, and then all of a sudden you get yourself. All of a sudden you're 2-1, you're 2-0 down, you're 3-0 down. It's game over.
Yeah. Do we think Hull could go on and go playoffs, or do you think they'll be just off?
I think they'll be mid-table at best. I'll be honest. You know what I mean? Because I do believe Grzycki's playing well, Jared Bowen's playing well. My concern for Hull with players like this is of years gone by that they're doing well, they'll end up losing them, and who they're going to bring in. You know what I mean? Then they go and get a player from the lower league again. It takes them half a season to get going. They'll be mid-table, I believe. You know what I mean? But they're a selling club. They're not a progressive football club, because that's just the way that the football clubs run. And you know what I mean? Sometimes it's for their own downfall.
Yeah, as a Cardiff fan, I'd love to have Jared Bowen or Grzycki. They're exactly what Cardiff need, a bit of a creative spark and goals from... But there we go. Next up, we had, and our final sort of main featured game is Millwall 1, QPR 2. Oh dear.
I'll tell you what, QPR will absolutely just... They must be in heaven at the minute, their supporters, because, you know what I mean, we keep saying it, that they were the worst side I saw last season, and I saw them a couple of times. I'm not just judging it on one game, and first half was pretty timid, hardly any chances at all, but we keep saying it, QPR. You know what I mean? I think we keep mentioning the three centre forwards they've got, but in different players each week, which is probably worrying for the Championship, because they're not all scoring the same week and they're not scoring the next. They're taking turns, and this week it was Naki Wells, and he scored a fantastic goal. His first goal, it was just out of nothing. Great left foot finish into the top corner. Keeper had no chance. I thought Millwall looked very dangerous off set pieces. You know what I mean? Obviously, you got the Steve Morrison factor, and you got an equaliser through Hutchinson off a set piece. They just look very dangerous. And then there we go again with another goalkeeping mistake. I'll try and get his name right. So I've got Bielkowski. It was an absolute shocker. You know what I mean? Tried to play when he shouldn't do. I just don't get why goalkeepers think they can do it. You know what I mean? Stick to basics. Kick it in Rose head. You know, just don't think you're a player. You're a goalkeeper. You're good with your hands. Just let's leave it at that. Let the players play, and you just get back in your net and just play with your gloves. I'd be happy with that, because there's just so many people thinking they can just play, and he just gave away the winning goal, and it was just I was absolutely shocker. And then, but to be fair, look, Millwall should have equalised through Jed Wallace at the end. Decent strike, but unlucky for him. I think it hit the stanchion behind the goal, and you know what I mean, it'll all be remembered for the goalkeeper mistake. But Naki Wells gets himself 2 goals. QPR another important 3 points, and regardless how the season goes for them, they're getting the points on the board already, and they're scoring goals, they're creating chances, and so far they're having a very good season.
Yeah, and not for the first time this season. One of these teams, I think it was Reading a couple of weeks ago, trying to play when they shouldn't be playing, in their own half or in their own box, trying to do too much. And it's cost them, because, you know, when Millwall have equalised, I think there's 20 minutes to go or 19 minutes to go. They're going to think, home game, 1-1, we're going to go on and win this now. We've had a few chances. You know, it's at the new den. And then within 60 seconds, they've done that, a mistake, calamitous, and it's 2-1. And it knocked Stefan out of them a bit. And, you know, like I say, Wallace should have scored towards the end.
Yeah.
But Neil Harris, when Millwall's equalised, he must have been thinking, we're going to go on and win this now. With the
definitely.
crowd behind them.
Yeah.
And Naki Wells, mate, he's been outstanding all season. And I thought he was not just his goals, I thought he was very good.
Yeah, well, all three of them have, you know what I mean? The Eze, Jordan Hugill, Naki Wells, they've got, for me, the right partnership there. You've got your big man, you've got your quickness, you've got your skill. And, you know what I mean? They're going to be very dangerous, and they're going to score a lot of goals. And, you know what I mean? We spoke about who surprises, who could be the outsider. And for me, because of those three, they're going to be very dangerous. You know what I mean? All right, you've got a couple of loan players, you know what I mean, who could go back to parent clubs, but you know what I mean, or could get sold on to other teams if they're doing well. And it would be such a shame for QPR, because you know what I mean, these players now are finding their feet, playing regular football week in, week out, and playing really well together. And I hope for them it continues, because QPR over the years, you know what I mean, especially when I grew up, they were always a big football club, and you know what I mean, they've always been in the top division, and you know what I mean, and they've been up and down when Harry Redknapp took over, not so many years ago. You know what I mean, part of me thinks that they do deserve to have a bit of success, but you know what I mean, I think this season they're getting so many things right, especially after such a disappointing season last season, and I hope for their fans that it continues, because it's always a good place to go down is Loftus Road.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite grounds, actually, for away games. I do think they need to, if they're going to push on to make that run for the playoffs, they need to shore it up at the back a bit.
100%.
still a bit.
100%.
They look a bit shaky and a bit leaky, but I think
besides
they're
two
capable of doing
goals and 3 goals, you shouldn't have to win a game sometimes. You know what I mean? Sometimes
it.
one goal has got to be enough, and you know what I mean. I don't believe QPR will keep many clean sheets this season because teams will get at them, and you know what I mean. They have to score goals to be in the game. But this is the Championship, and the Championship is just full of goals and full of mistakes. And to be fair, if it wasn't for the goalkeeper mistake, we could be sat here saying QPR's bubbles burst and they've lost because Neil Harris's side have scored in the last minute, or it's a point, and you would have thought QPR would have wanted to win this. You know what I mean? So you're taking a massive moment out of a game at such a pivotal point. You know what I mean? That Neil Harris must be pulling his hair out at the minute. You know what I mean? And yesterday and Saturday night, because you know what I mean, his side probably didn't deserve to lose the game. Could have drawn it at the end. Probably could have won it throughout the game. But we're talking about a goalkeeper mistake, and it's cost them massively.
Yeah, I think Jordan Hugel's experience up front helps the two boys either side of him or just behind him.
I agree.
He's a good blend, and he kind
of
of
like
makes intelligent runs.
He's like the battering ram as well. He'll take the pressure off the two runners either side of him. You know what I mean? Naki Wells, he's not a frame. He's a technically very good footballer. He's powerful, skillful, quick. But you need the man to front it, and Jordan fronts it really well. And you know what I mean? It's so far it's a recipe for success at the minute.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so we're just gonna go through all the other games now. We've got first up, Leeds 1, Derby 1. Right.
Well, I saw Bielsa's interview, and one thing I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't do it in English. But he just came across so frustrated that, you know what I mean. All right, his side's creating chances. You know what I mean. 13 shots on goal. You know what I mean. 13 shots on goal, and they're missing some horrific chances. They're creating them, of course they are, but you speak about Paddy Bamford. You know what I mean. We keep on saying the same thing. They can't keep on missing chance after chance after chance. Sooner or later, they're going to have to go in and bring that 30 goal centre forward in, because that's their difference between them winning this league and going up in a canter. Already, they should be 5 points clear at the top of the league. Already, without a shadow of a doubt, they've dropped 2 points last minute against Swansea. Nottingham Forest scored last kick against them a few weeks ago. Derby have done it again. It can't keep happening. I'm just so sorry. It can't keep happening. And you know what I mean. I know I have my fun with the Leeds supporters, but I'm frustrated for them because I know for a fact how I enjoy watching the Leeds United play football going forward, because they've got some great attacking play. But then you want about fine margins, Si. You know what I mean? I know he's one of your favourite players in the league, but Cleats took one of the worst penalties I've seen all season. And we give praise and credit where credit's due. And Lyle Taylor takes probably the most cheekiest penalty I've ever seen. And sometimes you just want a centre forward or your midfielder to put your laces through it, smash the back of the net, and go and celebrate in the crowd. And I believe at that time that's what that game was calling out for. You know what I mean? Not a side foot penalty waiting for the keeper to dive just to put him the wrong way. And you know what I mean? It's come back to bite them on the backside a little bit, because with 20 minutes to go, if that had gone in, I probably would have worried for Derby, because I think it probably would have been 3-4, maybe 5, because Derby showed nothing all afternoon. And you know what I mean? I think the longer the game went on, they were putting decent balls in the box, and Chris Martin pops up and scores. And at the Cardiff City Stadium, there was a few loud cheers when that goal went in, I tell you.
So first, with the penalty, I was going to say, he is. He's one of my favourite players to watch this year, Glick. And like you just said, we're only fair to all players and teams. If they're not very good, we'll say, and if they're good, we'll give them credit, whoever they play for. My problem is not so much how he took the penalty. If that's how he takes his penalties, that's fine. Like Lyle Taylor. Lyle Taylor takes his penalties like that, so that's fine. But Glick, at the start of the season, didn't take his penalty like that.
Yeah.
He put his foot through it, or he didn't smash it by any means, but he ran it.
It was powerful. It was more powerful than that one was, yeah.
It wasn't this almost like a Lyle Taylor rip-off, if you like, trying to be too casual, trying to be too clever, and he's made a hash of it. Terrible penalty. The keepers celebrated it like he's won the World Cup, as we said yesterday. But I mean, and it's cost them. And going to chances that they missed, even like all the games that you mentioned where they've dropped points. If you just factor in the 2 games where Paddy Bamford has missed several chances the game at the start of the season where he missed, I think, like 4 chances. And they dropped points. And then today he's missed. Saturday he's missed chances. They've dropped points. That's 4 points just from his missed chances. Now I'm not blaming him because the week after when he missed the chances before, he scored 2 and won in the game. But like I said earlier in the season, and like you've just said, if they want to go and win this league, they have got to take their chances. And every single game, they're missing 2, 3, 4 chances. Not always Paddy Bamford. They've missed a penalty. And Glick last week, they missed chances. I think it was the Forest game. Then was it Forest last week?
Yeah, Forest drew 1-1. The one before.
They missed a load of chances. They got to be putting these teams away, especially when you think Forest, Swansea, and Derby. They're 3 big championship teams.
Yeah,
so you've got to take chances against those teams because you don't know which Derby's going to turn up. Derby could turn up one of these weeks and play you off the park. Same with Swansea, same with Forest. You've got to take your chances, and they're not doing that. And I do wonder whether it will cost them in the long run.
Yeah, they've got some good games coming up. Well, when I say good games, anyone can beat anybody. But they play Charlton next weekend. They're at home to West Brom the week after. Millwall away, Birmingham at home. You know what I mean? So they've got some good games coming up for them. You know what I mean? Teams who, I know West Brom are unbeaten, but if a team's going to stop an unbeaten run, it's going to be Leeds United. So, you know what I mean? They've got to put them chances to bed. And the lad on loan from Arsenal, is he the answer? I would like to see him being given a chance because, you know what I mean, he's on loan from Arsenal for a reason. You know what I mean? He's come on. I think he's come on a couple of times this season and scored a couple of winning goals, and maybe he deserves a start. You know what I mean? I know Paddy's his number 1 centre forward and his number 9, but sooner or later you've got to give somebody an opportunity who deserves an opportunity. And for me, at the minute, it's probably the right time to go next Saturday. Charlton Athletic away. Let him loose and see how he does.
Yeah, indeed. And, he can only keep scoring off the bench, can't he? He can't do much more.
Yeah, he can't do any more. Can't do any more than what he's doing.
I think the fortunate thing for Leeds is that over the last few weeks, Swansea have dropped points in 2 games in a row. And Fulham have kind of gone off the boil a little bit. They sort of dropped some points.
Yeah, so we'll talk about them soon. But I'm not massively impressed with the teams in and around them. So it's an opportunity. Well, it's a bigger disappointment now for Leeds because with the teams dropping points, they could be even further away. Yeah,
absolutely. They could, I think you named 4 games where they've dropped points from missed chances. If you add 8 points to their total, this is a big difference, isn't it?
Scary, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, you look where they are now. All right, the top of the league, joint with Swansea City. You give them another 8 points on that. It gives them 25 points. You know what I mean? They're on 17. You know what I mean? And they've scored 13 goals. They could be on 20 goals. You know what I mean? And that's a massive statement. You know what I mean? They're missing chance after chance. They can't afford to do it.
Yeah, it's those fine margins, mate. Again, Championship more than any other league. I find that those margins make the difference. Okay, next up we've got Birmingham 0. Birmingham, the form side as well. Going in, they lost 1-0 to Preston.
Yeah, Preston, the absolute dark horses of this league. We both had them to struggle. And to be honest, they are going to make us look stupid. But you know what? There's always a team which surprises everybody, and you know what I mean. Massively impressed with the goal scorer Maguire. You know what I mean? He's going through scoring some regular goals. And to be fair, he scored a proper centre forwards goal as well. It was a good free kick from Gallagher, decent save, and Maguire was there to step up. You know what I mean? He scored last week in the win against Brentford. He scored again this week. he scored in another heavy win so far this season. I think it's his 4th goal this season. So, you know what I mean. He's finding his feet in the Championship and getting some regular goals. And you know what I mean. They're doing really well. You know what I mean. They're keeping clean sheets. They're scoring goals. You know what I mean. Sometimes it's like picture perfect. Birmingham didn't really create that many chances. They made some attacking subs. They brought off Bellington, who's obviously the young boy who's been scoring the last couple of weeks. And one thing I thought, because I thought of that, and I thought it's a little bit unfair, isn't it? That you know what I mean, that the expectation on his young shoulders that he's there expecting to score and being their hero week in week out. It's not going to happen. So hopefully supporters give him a little bit of an easier ride, and you know what I mean, put the pressure on Jukovic and put the pressure on the experienced players, because this young boy is going to be a superstar hopefully. But what they can't afford to do is him to be the fall guy and the scapegoat every time that they don't score, because he's only a young boy. And you know what I mean, sometimes to bring off the bench now and again is better for his development than to throw him in week out and expect him to be the hero all the time.
Yeah, and then you're taking him off because he hasn't scored when you need a goal.
Yeah. How is that going to affect his confidence?
To a 16-year-old, coming off means you're not playing very well.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what I mean. You don't want to affect his confidence.
Resting, is it?
Yeah, you know what I mean. You don't know what's getting said, but you know what I mean. As a player, you know what I mean. You want to play all the time, but you at the same time, you know what I mean. You've got to protect players, and sometimes protecting them means you're not putting them on the pitch. You're keeping them where they are and keeping them off the pitch, and you know what I mean. You're protecting them in different ways.
Yeah, I think so. Preston just making us look a bit silly at the moment.
I hope he doesn't continue. I hope.
Yeah, they'll be like top of the league now by Christmas, and that'll be the end.
Yeah.
So next up, we had the first 0-0 of the day, which was Brentford 0, Stoke 0. I was surprised to know Stoke were bottom of the league. I thought Huddersfield for sure were bottom of the league, but
they were. But obviously, Stoke got themselves off the foot of the table. Jack Butland in goal, got himself a clean sheet, pulled off some decent saves. To be fair, Stoke could have won it. Stoke had enough chances to win it. So did Brentford. To be fair, it was probably one of the most entertaining 0-0 draws of the highlights I've seen, because both sides went to win this football match, and you know what I mean. And I think if Stoke continued to play like they did on Saturday, defensively they look solid, they look strong. Going forward, they created chances. You know what I mean. It was like a game of ping pong. It was one side and the other side, and you know what I mean. I think both teams will pick up a lot of points this season, playing the way that they're playing. But obviously defensively, both have had a concern. You know what I mean. Brentford have let a lot of goals in, considering they spent a lot of money on the lad from Leeds, Janssen, and obviously Stoke are full of international footballers and very good players, and spent a fortune themselves. So it's, for me, I think it was probably a good result for both teams. You know what I mean, to show that they can keep a clean sheet and to show that they can stop the rut of bad results, because both of them have had a bit of a dip in form recently. You know what I mean. That Brentford have they'd lost three out of the four, and obviously Stoke City had lost 3 out of 3 in the league. So it was important for them to both get back to basics, and I think it was a good solid point for both.
Yeah, I think Brentford are a bit of an enigma to me. They've been one of the most consistent Championship sides over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
And this year, after they've spent some cash, you don't know who's going to turn up.
No.
Each week.
No.
And it's bizarre because they've been so consistent in the Championship and League One over the last few years. You know, it's just unexplainable. Like
it must be frustrating for the supporters, because you know what I mean, that this year more than any year they're probably expecting, where previous years, the last 2 or 3 seasons, they've just been on a wave of probably overachieving, when now they're probably expecting them to do well, and now they're not. They probably don't understand what's going on. You know what I mean? That now there's a little bit of pressure on them to do well, and they're not. And Stoke, you know what I mean, that they'll turn it around. You know what I mean, because they've got good enough players, and I believe Jones is slowly turning things round and getting it right. And I thought Jack Butland looked full of confidence. He's had an awful start of the season, but he pulled off some half decent saves on Saturday. and he probably didn't look like and certainly didn't deserve to be on the losing team and deserved his clean sheet.
Yeah, I thought he was very good actually, Jack Butland. We criticised him heavily at the start of the season, and they took him out the side, and he looks like he's been, he's obviously been training hard, and he's come back in focused and ready to go. Stoke haven't won a league game for 168 days, which is unbelievable.
So it is. That is scary. That is scary. That is scary. Well, I watched Cowley's interview, Huddersfield manager, and similar thing that he said winning's a skill, and he's right. You know what I mean? Winning's a skill, and you've got to have that winning mentality. If that's winning a game of ping pong, if that's winning a game of five-a-side, if that's winning a game of rock paper scissors, you want to win everything, and players sometimes get stuck in a rut of losing. You want to win everything. You know what I mean? You want to win a flip of a coin. You know what I mean? It's about winning mentality, and Stoke, same as all. You know what I mean? They need to get back to that winning mentality, and when they do win eventually, you know what I mean? It can't just be a one-off. It's got to be right. We're enjoying this moment, but we're going to go to the next level, and I want this feeling again, instead of just being right. That's a relief. That's what it feels like. You know what I mean? It's got to be. You know what I mean? Because you've still got 40. We've still got 40 games left, potentially. 38 games left. There's still a long way to go, and but one win will I believe turn into 2, 3, 4 for Stoke City very quickly, and how close this league is this season, they could shoot right up there.
Yeah, I think it was last week. It might have been the week before. I think it was last week where I said I thought Stoke, even though they dropped points, they actually looked really good, and they looked like they were turning the corner. Oh, it was the week before, because then last week Joe Allen got sent off, didn't he, early on? But they had looked good in the first few minutes before he got sent off.
Yeah, they're 1-0 ahead.
Sent off and it changed the
1-0
game.
ahead. They should have won. Yeah, should have won.
So I do think they're turning the corner, and I do think, like you said, that they could go on like a run of 7, 8, 9, 10 games. If they can string a couple of wins together, it could turn into one of those runs full of momentum that we talked about at the start of the season in the preview show.
Definitely.
Next up, Bristol City 0, Swansea City 0.
Yeah, I was disappointed with Swansea. I thought going to Bristol City, you know what I mean? I thought they would have watched the way that Middlesbrough played against them a couple of weeks ago on Sky and got at them a little bit, because defensively, Bristol City are all over the place. And Bristol City were the ones who created the majority of the chances. They should have scored at least a couple of goals. Interesting interview I seen from Lee Johnson, that he's got a Forby injured, long-term injury I think it is, and he obviously desperate to bring in a centre forward. So he's on about bringing in somebody who's a free agent who hasn't got a club. So that'll be an interesting one. I think watch this space to see who he brings in, because he's obviously got his eye on somebody. But Bristol City are impressing me. Bristol City are, for me, quite impressed with them. You know what I mean? They've let a lot of goals in, but they've scored a lot of goals, and they go forward in droves, and they create chance after chance after chance. And to be honest, I was very surprised that Swansea held firm, because the road of luck against Leeds a few Saturdays ago when they beat them 1-0, and you can only ride your luck so many times. I believe. I don't think you can keep doing it week in, week out. And to be honest, if they continue that, someone is going to beat them quite heavily, because you can't keep on defending for long periods in this league, because someone just smashes the door down and you're going to be getting beat. And one thing I will say though, that I wasn't impressed with the sending off one little bit. You know what I mean? Bidwell got a straight red card for his tackle. That was not a red card. If that happened anywhere else on the pitch, it would have been a yellow. Because it happened right in front of Lee Johnson. Lee Johnson got him sent off, and I didn't like that at all. It was a trip. It was an intentional trip, a blatant trip. But I've seen 10 times worse in the Championship this season, and yellow cards been given. And you know what I mean? If it's the last minute or not the last minute, it doesn't matter. It's intentional trip. It's a yellow card and a yellow card only, and hopefully that gets looked at, because he didn't deserve a red card for me. And you know what I mean? I was very disappointed with people's reaction, and Lee Johnson's in particular. You know what I mean? I know it's a passionate game, and emotions are high. It's the last minute of a game in a local derby, England against Wales, but for me, it's not a red card at all.
No, I didn't think it was either. I think we said a couple of weeks ago that Bristol, they got a massive squad,
Huge.
It's a really, really good squad, but they were leaking goals. And then they
Yeah.
brought in Ashley Williams, and
Yeah.
I thought he was very impressive. It was
Yeah,
his
he
home
was.
debut.
Yeah.
You know, he'd have been bang up for it playing against Swansea, because I'm sure he would have liked to have gone back there on a free transfer, but
Yeah.
didn't materialise for whatever reason. Bristol's a good move for him. I think
Yeah.
he's still good enough to play in the Championship. Although he struggled a bit for Wales last year, but I did wonder how much of that was because he wasn't playing week in, week out for his club sides. But I think he's a very astute signing for Bristol, because if they can shore it up at the back.
Yeah, defensively side, you know what I mean? If you can bring in international footballers and Premier League class footballers into the Championship, you know what I mean? It looks easy. You know what I mean? When Middlesbrough did it under Karanka, and they had Ayala from Norwich City, they had Ben Gibson, who's now you know what I mean? They find it easy, and you get a good partnership and an understanding. And you know what I mean? You've got Callas there. You've got, when he comes back from injury, you've got Williams. You know what I mean? These are Premier League class players. These are Premier League international footballers on the day. And you know what I mean? I'm sure. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see who does bring in centre forward wise. But you know what I mean? If he can bring in Ashley Williams on a free, he's obviously got his eye on somebody, and he's obviously got an unlimited budget as well, which is quite interesting. You know what I mean? That their budget must be massive this season.
There was Fernando Llorente he's available on a free. He used to play for Spurs.
Yeah.
They've got an unlimited budget and he wants a club. What a signing that would be. I don't know whether he would drop into the Championship, but you know, he's not playing for anyone, so
yeah. Well, as I say, I think we reeled off quite a few the other week, and you know what I mean. There's players who are waiting. You know what I mean, waiting for the right opportunity, the right club, and you know what I mean. Even if it's only till January, it's a perfect opportunity for somebody to go and score some goals and put themselves in the right shop window for January.
Yeah, do you think Swansea? I think they've been quite poor the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think they've. I think. What they got beat last week and not against Nottingham Forest. Obviously, they went to Leeds. Even you can go back to the Leeds game. You know what I mean? The Leeds game, they were lucky to win. You know what I mean? Got beat by Forest last week. Didn't score again. You know what I mean? And obviously, they scored a scruffy goal at Leeds for the winner. You know what I mean? They're not creating the free flowing football and chances what they did at the start of the season, and that must be a little bit concerning because you know what I mean? It's a tough league, and you're gonna come across the Bristol Cities, the West Broms, the Middlesbroughs, the Leeds United. You know what I mean? There's some big games coming up. You know what I mean? And they've got Reading next week. Sometimes you just don't know which Reading's going to turn up. Charlton, decent side on the day. Stoke City, you know what I mean? So by then Stoke could be on a good run. So you know what I mean? Swansea need to be careful and start picking up performances because they've had such a good start of the season. You don't want to be a letdown.
No, you don't. Yeah, maybe the international break has done them. Next up, we've got Forest 1, Barnsley 0. Another win for Forest.
Another win for another huge win for Forest. And to be fair, I thought they were bang average. I thought Barnsley created chance after chance after chance. Samba in goal was fantastic. He made some great saves. He was tested throughout, and I felt really sorry for Barnsley because you know what I mean. Barnsley have had a slow start to the season. They've obviously had some heavy defeats against Luton Town. Leeds beat them last weekend. Beat to Birmingham and got heavily beaten. You know what I mean? So to go there and put in a positive display but still get nothing from the game must be very frustrating. And hopefully they don't lose too much heart because they're just not scoring enough goals. You know what I mean? They're the least scoring side in the Championship with 4 goals. So that I think tells you the biggest story that, you know what I mean, if you're not going to score goals in this league, you're going to get punished. And 4 goals is just not enough at all in this division. You know what I mean? It's 1 goal every 2 games, and you know what I mean. They need to sort that out very quickly in order to survive in this division because goals win games in the Championship, and that's survival. That's mid-table playoffs, promotion, and you know what I mean. Last season they didn't score too many goals, but they scored at least a goal every game because they kept a lot of clean sheets. Where this season they're not keeping the clean sheets and they're getting punished at both ends. And you know what I mean, Summit's got to give because Barnes is a huge football club as well. And You know what I mean? There's no point. They don't want to be a yo-yo club like you just said about Peterborough and come up to the Championship, get relegated back into League One, and have to go back up because you know what I mean. There's going to be a season sometime where you know what I mean. There's some massive clubs in that League One, and sometimes you ain't going to get out that trap door. The Sunderlands, the Salfords potentially in a year or two, the Peterboroughs, you know, the MK Dons. You know what I mean? There's some massive clubs with big followings and big stadiums, a big Ipswich, some big budgets, and then you've got the potential of a Huddersfield maybe falling through. You know what I mean? And someone else, a big club. You just don't know. So you know what I mean. You need to be very careful, and you know what I mean. The more seasons you can stay in the highest flight or the top flight, the Championship. You know what I mean. The more revenue which comes with it, and the more money you can start putting back on the pitch and building your club. And that they need to get it right on the pitch.
Yes, absolutely. I thought Lewis Grabham, excellent again. Watson,
Yeah, he was
very, very good. I thought Forrest
just
would
missed his
generally.
goal. Lewis just missed his goal. He got chance after chance. He missed a couple of 1-on-1s. He lost his composure a couple of times. But I agree. I said at the start of the season that the way that they remind me of Wolves a little bit. Some of the passing going forward, technically, they look absolutely fantastic. They just miss that cutting edge at times, and that's where I feel sorry for Lewis Grabham, that he's up front on his own. He's got all this pressure on his shoulders. If he had someone to fall off him a little bit and to play up with him, because they play one up, two wide, one behind. It's a little bit like he's the main man, like a Paddy Bamford, for example. If he doesn't score, who scores? You know what I mean? But it was Ben. Who was it who scored? It was a ginger-haired lad, Ben Watson. Yes, Ben Watson, ex-Watford.
Ball by Carvalho.
Yeah, great ball, great cutback, and very good finish as well. You know what I mean? Midfield, this third man runner, and fantastic finish in the top corner. And you know what I mean? Once that goal went in, there was no looking back, and I couldn't see Barnsley scoring after that.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I just had a quick look at the free transfers of people on a free at the moment, centre forwards, and I think I've worked out who they're going to sign. Bristol. So they've lost. Who did they lose?
Afobe
to injury. So you've got Wilfred Bonney.
Oh,
I think it'll be him because he kind of fits the same kind of player, like strong.
Especially if Ashley Williams has anything, he could make a cheeky phone call.
We got Gary Hooper,
Giuseppe Rossi. Oh, interesting.
Victor Enichibi, Obafemi Martins, Sergio Garcia.
We've got a few good ones there.
Yeah, God, is there ever? But yeah, I think it'll be Wilfred Bonney myself. That's my prediction for Bristol's free transfer signing.
Good shout.
So, sorry about that. I just go back up. So what did we just do? We just did Forest, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, Forest have been playing so well.
Yeah, really, they have. They're the informed side, and you know what I mean. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play them. I wouldn't want to play them in the minute.
Next up, we had Reading 1, Blackburn 2.
Blackburn are hitting some great form, and to be fair, they're scoring some great goals as well. You know what I mean? Adam Armstrong's goal was a great goal, top corner, very well struck. You know what I mean? They've just got some very good attacking players. They've got Gallagher, who's on loan from Southampton. You've got Armstrong, Dak, and Stewie Downing behind, and obviously Dak got his goal, and yeah, everyone knows how much of a Bradley Dak fan I am. I'd love him in any team I support, and I'd love to see him at a higher level, being given an opportunity. But at the minute, he's playing week in, week out at Blackburn Rovers. He's scoring goals. This is his progression. This is his step up. And to be honest, to be playing alongside a player like Stewie Downing, Dak will be getting even better and better because Stewie will be helping him along. You've got Armstrong, who's on loan from Newcastle, or John might just sign full time. You've got Gallagher on loan from Southampton. So you've got all this attacking flair, and they're doing pretty well. They've picked up massively. You know what I mean? Obviously, they beat Millwall last week very comfortably. Should have been a lot more than the 2. You go away to Reading, who, to be honest, at home have won some, beat some good sides and won some games quite heavily. Beat Cardiff there and beat some other sides. But Blackburn thoroughly deserved the 3 points with some good attacking play.
Yeah, Armstrong's score was special.
Fabulous. Yeah, fabulous.
And nice. It was a nice cross by Downing. I feel like I've said this repeat for like the last 5 weeks, but Bradley Dack was outstanding again. Everything which Blackburn did going forward went through him.
Yeah.
And I just thought he was really good, and I thought his finish was good as well on the turn. He gave
it was tidy. To be honest, he should have laid it back for someone on the edge of the box, but he's got that much confidence. He wanted to get the shot away himself, and he earned a little bit of luck and got the deflection and wrong-footed the goalkeeper, and it ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah, what's gone on with Reading, mate? Since they battered Cardiff,
I don't know. It's what concerns me, that though, because you know what I mean. It's a similar to Wigan. That Wigan beat Cardiff heavily in the second half to score 3 goals. You know what I mean, and then haven't really picked up since the one at the weekend, which is something we'll talk about soon. But then same as Reading, I think since that game, you know what I mean. Are these players raising the game against the so-called bigger sides? And you know what I mean? I hope not, because you know what I mean. Reading played Middlesbrough 2 weeks ago at the Riverside and they were poor. You know what I mean? It was a week after international break. Puskas was being away international duty was so he started this week, and you know what I mean? Maybe his tiredness kicks in with international duty, that travelling, and you know, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but you know what I mean? Reading can't go and beat Cardiff like they did on that Sunday and then throw in a performance like that, because it's just not good enough, and it's not good enough for the standards of a professional footballer for me, and the high expectation. You can't raise your game against certain sides and then drop them against the others.
Yeah, and they didn't just beat Cardiff, did they? You know, they didn't just like raise their game and beat them 1-0 or 2-1.
No,
they played them off the park.
Yeah, from 1 to 90, it could have been a hell of a lot more than what it was. So it wasn't just a, you know what I mean. It was a dominant display, and if you can put in a display like that against a strong Cardiff side, you put in a, you know, disrespect to Birmingham, to Blackburn or anybody else, you put in a same display against a lesser side, you can beat them even heavier, and you could throw yourself up the league. And like a Preston North End, all of a sudden you're in second or third place in the league. But league tables don't lie, and you know what I mean? There's one performance. It could have been, must have just been a massive off day for Cardiff City, because Reading are just not consistent with their performances.
No. Next up, Sheffield Wednesday 1, Fulham 1. I had a little chuckle about this.
Oh, to be honest, I can't believe Fulham got anything from the game, because Fulham got outplayed from the first to the last. Everyone goes on about possession and percentages. I do follow this Fulham supporter who always throws a fact at me every single game about possession. When they played Cardiff, it was something like 74% of the possession, but they didn't win the game, so it's irrelevant. Saturday, they had 71% of possession against Sheffield Wednesday's 29. Sheffield Wednesday had 12 shots on goal, 5 on target. Fulham had 2 shots on target. You know what I mean? Percentage of possession means nothing unless you're going to get shots on target away. Sheffield Wednesday, Fletcher should have scored before he got substituted. Kadeem Harris, I'll talk about his assist in a minute, but I thought it was outstanding on the left. You got Adam Reach on the right. You know what I mean? Gary Monk has walked into a job for me, and walked into a very good job with some very, very good attacking players. He's got Westwood in goal, who I think he did make a mistake a little bit. I thought he could have caught that instead of punching it, but he made his decision. He punched it. He didn't get up quick enough, and it was a tidy finish by Kearney. But for me, I'd be disappointed for Sheffield that they didn't get the 3 points. But then going into the 93rd minute, you know what I mean? You'd have snapped their hands off for a draw. But you know what I mean? In the bigger picture, Gary Monk will have gone in the change room at full time, pleased with the point, but disappointed his side didn't pick up all 3. And you know what I mean? I think Fulham were very, very fortunate that they got anything from the game. So I thought they were terrible on the day.
Yeah, they could have. You know, Gary Monk will have gone off, and he would have said, "Yes, we're disappointed with the point, but take the positives from me. You've outplayed one of the favourites for the
potentially on paper the best side in the league.
You should have beaten them comfortably.
Yeah.
So take that into your other games, and you're going to be there or thereabouts." Kadeem Harris, since he's moved to Sheffield Wednesday, really showing what he can do with a run of games.
Oh, his assist for the goal side. You know what I mean? It's one of those balls where you put in between the goalkeeper and the defenders. The goalkeeper doesn't want to come and get it. The defenders didn't want to come and get it, and then the lad headed it in, and it was just it was a fantastic ball. But this isn't just a one-off. You know what I mean? He did it last week. He did it the week before. He's getting assists. He's getting his name on the score sheet. He's making a name for himself. He's becoming a pain in the backside for fullbacks, and you know what I mean. And this is why he's moved to get himself regular first team football. And this proves and shows every young footballer that don't sit and be happy with a place on the bench. Go and play your football somewhere else. Go and make a name for yourself, because there's nothing better than playing in front of a crowd week in, week out. You know what I mean? He's playing in front of 30,000 fans week in, week out on his home games. What's better than that? Who's the idiot? You know what I mean? He's made the best decision. It's fair play to him, because it was a big call that for a young boy to leave, and you know what I mean. Fair play to him. He's made an unbelievable decision, and his performances are justified at the minute. And Gary Monk must be the happiest man in the world. Is potentially on paper, like you said about Cardiff, having three proper wingers. Gary Monk's got two of the best as well. You know what I mean? And two lads who assist and both score goals as well.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Kadeem Harris is, if he was still at Cardiff, he wouldn't have started any games yet this year. He would have come off the bench a couple of times and played against Luton in the Coca-Cola Cup, as we call it. Yeah. It's like, whereas he started, I think, the majority of the games for Sheffield Wednesday, if not all of them, and he's played well. And I know I said for the last couple of years that I felt like if he could get a run of games out of him for Cardiff, he had the ability, and he's so quick. But he always looked like a player when he came on off the bench, where he might not do that much damage off the bench.
Yeah.
Whereas if he could get like a run of games, get some confidence, settle into the game a little bit, then he might, there's something there, and he's proven it.
Yeah, good luck to him. I hope it continues, because we've just spoke there about Rudy Gestede, about not wanting to play. Where now you've got a boy who was desperate to play. You know what I mean? And this is what I love. I love lads who have got a point to prove, who want to get on that football pitch and play, because sometimes it's, you know, I made the decision, you know what I mean? It could have been easy for me to stay at Middlesbrough and stay in my hometown and see my friends every day, my family every day, and sit on the bench and be comfortable and be from Cardiff to Sheffield. But you know what I mean? Who knows in the future what might happen for the boy or for his current club, and it might be the best thing he's ever done.
Indeed. Okay, so last couple of games we had Wigan 2, Charlton 0. Oh, Charlton.
Yeah, you know what I mean. They're still doing okay. You know what I mean. If someone had offered Lee Boy 14 points to make 8 games, they'd have snapped their hands off. You know what I mean. That the way that Charlton, you know what I mean, played last week against Birmingham and let themselves down a little bit. I expected them to come to Wigan and go and get a result, go and get a positive result. You know what I mean. But it just didn't happen. You know what I mean. Wigan looked more like the team at the start of the season. They were creating chances, and they just looked like a different side. They scored 2 very good goals from the centre half, Dunkley. I thought his volley in the first goal was excellent. I thought his desire for the second goal for his header was superb as well. And I'm not worried for Charlton, because I think they're in good hands with Lee Boyer. You know what I mean? I think things will look after themselves a little bit. You know what I mean? Lyle Taylor didn't play; he was missing. You know what I mean? So obviously that's a factor which obviously you take in. You know what I mean? He wasn't in the 16, and sometimes you can miss players that much that it affects you a little bit. You know what I mean? And hopefully he can get himself back on the pitch sooner rather than later, because a side like Charlton can't afford to be without their best player and their talisman for more games than they need to be, because you know what I mean. Charlton will survive for me, and they'll survive by winning enough home games at the Valley and You know what I mean? I've just said there that they play Leeds United next Saturday, which is always going to be a tough game. You know what I mean? Leeds seem to travel really well, and you know what I mean, probably travel better than they do at home. But it'll be a decent crowd, and Charlton hopefully will be well up for it to try and take some points off the league leaders.
Yeah, I think Bowyer will be disappointed to concede off 2 set pieces.
Yeah.
But
I
like
think that's
you
a championship
say,
side as well. Like we've said this
yeah,
about all
and
the
you'd
teams
think a League One side would be good from set pieces, like who've come up from League One.
Yeah, they obviously let themselves down because it was the first one was a volley. You know what I mean? If it was a header, sometimes somebody wants it a little bit more than somebody else. But a volley's different. A volley's somebody not marking and doing the job, and the defenders didn't do the job enough on Saturday, which will disappoint. Which will disappoint the manager because, you know what I mean, you don't work on tactics all week to be let down by some sloppy defending.
Yeah, Davy Marshall was on fire.
Yeah,
some great saves.
Yeah, he was.
Last game of the weekend was West Brom 4, Huddersfield 2. So we decided the game we were going to focus on before this was played.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, full of goals, full of action. I was quite impressed with Huddersfield. I was, you know what I mean. Cowley's talking about baby steps. I saw more than baby steps. I saw massive improvement. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. He'll obviously be delighted inside that his side starting to implement what he wants them to do. You know what I mean, because they got at West Brom. You know what I mean. Took the lead. Through O'Brien, Phillips equalised for a decent goal. Then they got themselves ahead at half time. The problem, what you've got, is with 20 minutes to go, when that goes to 2-2 for me, then Huddersfield should have shut up shop and just took a 2-2 draw instead of probably trying to go and win the game again. You know what I mean? You're trying to win a game against, for me, the best attacking players in the Championship, and you know what I mean. For me, they can recycle players like they did. They brought Diagana on. They brought Robson Kanu on. You brought Kenneth Sahorn. You know what I mean? These kind of you leave Chris Brunt on the bench. You know what I mean? You bring these kind of players on. You know what I mean? They're going to hurt you. And you know what I mean? If you're leaving gaps like there were, you know what I mean? Some of the gaps were just ridiculous in the end of the last 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to win the game where, you know what I mean? Game management. Sometimes you just say, right, enough's enough. We've been ahead once, we've been ahead twice. We're now pegged back to 2-2. We'll take a point back. You know what I mean? And when it gets to 3-2, the gaps are even bigger because they've got to go and try and get the equaliser again. And 3-2 turns into 4-2 in the last minute. And unfortunately, you know what I mean? The game looks like it looks easier for West Brom than it was. And you know what I mean? I did feel sorry for Dean Cowley, and I hope, you know what I mean? I do believe that he'll turn things around because he seems very knowledgeable about football and knows his focus and where he wants that football club to go. And I do believe he'll turn them around very quickly by a 0-0 draw soon. You know what I mean? Or a scrape or a 1-0 win, and it'll kickstart this season because they deserve it. Probably for that manager's decision to leave Lincoln City because if to be fair, if he was a Lincoln manager, he probably would have been out of a job on Saturday because they got beat 6-0 at home as well. So you know what I mean? He's probably made a good decision to jump ship and focus on a bigger and better club.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, before the game, if he would have taken 2-2, so when it's gone to 2-2, it's up to him to obviously get his message to the players to calm down.
Yeah,
because I felt like almost like they were playing emotionally, where they could feel that they'd been playing so much better today on Sunday than they had for months. So and they'd been in the lead, so it's almost like they were like, we could do this as a collective. Whereas perhaps, like you mentioned, in-game management was to say, right, it's West Brom away. West Brom are on fire. They got all these players coming off the bench. Let's just hold. If we hit them on the break, we hit them on the break. But they got caught, and like you say, when it goes to 3-2, it's, you know, you've got to chase it. Then Chris Brunt is one of the best crossers in the Championship. To be able to bring him on when you want to, you're chasing a win or a goal is a hell of an option to have.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you know what I mean, Slaven Bilic unbeaten this season. You know what I mean? So I just, who's gonna take that mantle off them? You know what I mean? Because it'll take a good performance to do that. You know what I mean? And if you're letting the West Brom scoring goal after goal after goal and going away from home, getting a point, going at home, taking all three, you know what I mean? There could be a very scary force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? Because they're just full of attacking players, and we spoke about earlier on when I spoke about it, and I said it's the teams who go for the games, who try to score all the goals, and you know what I mean. I've just named 4 excellent centre forwards who potentially could play in the Premier League. You know what I mean? And they're all in the Championship side, and you know what I mean. You know what I mean. There's certainly goals in that team. So you know what I mean. I think West Brom will certainly be up there.
Yeah. So last week, Johnny Wish asked us in one of the questions was who we thought was going to go up and in the automatics and that. And I think I left Fulham out, and I had West Brom in the top 2, which I thought was quite controversial. But everyone I spoke to kind of agreed that they're going to be right up there. And I think you said the same, because they've really started to come into their own over the last couple of weeks, and they look good and they look dominant.
Yeah,
They do
look at the manager's side.
They do leak goals though.
Yeah, they do. I think that's the Championship though, because I think because the attack, you're leaving a massive hole in defence, and you know what I mean. I think their biggest statement for me this season was bringing in Slaven Bilic. You know what I mean? Because who was available? You had Jukanovic, the ex-Fulham manager. You know what I mean? Who everyone thought Middlesbrough were going to get. You had other managers available to walk into clubs, and for them to go and get a Slaven Bilic was a massive statement of intent. You know what I mean? Because it just shows where they want to go as a football club, and you know what I mean. If that's the intentions of the manager, and the manager's getting backed from the chairman to be able to bring in the Charlie Austins, and to have a Chris Brunt on the bench, you know what I mean, and trying to keep all these players happy. Do you know what I mean? Then it's going to be a long, successful season for them if they're allowed to do everything that they're wanting to do at the minute.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so let's finish off now with our 2 for 2 and our Q&As. Do the 2 for 2s first. Who you got for your first down, mate?
My first down, I've gone for Bartosz Białkowski for his horror moment in goal for Millwall against QPR. You know what I mean? Goalkeepers should just stay in goal, do what you need to do, kick it out. Don't think you can try and play. Give Naki Wells the winning goal of the game, and you know what I mean. I couldn't ignore him and leave him out.
Yeah, so I had him, but I had a feeling you were going to pick him, so I did pick a reserve, and I picked Lee Johnson and the referee team linesman for the sending off in the Bristol Swansea game, because I felt like Lee Johnson's reaction got him sent off, and the referee and the linesman should have seen it for what it was. So they get my
huge part of the play. You know what I mean? I don't want people sent off, and no player or manager should get anybody else sent off.
No, indeed. So what was your second one?
My second one, I've gone for a duo like you just done there. So I've gone for Luger from Luton Town for the own goal. I can't believe Potter's been given the own goal. Please, if you're watching, try and get to watch it, because the ball's over the top. It was this shot. It's going to go in. Potter's tried to clip it. He's tried to kick out. A little bit of communication. All the goalkeeper had to do is shout. He would have picked it up. Then the goalkeeper's head, and it's ended up in the back of the net. So for 2 professional footballers, to just not communicate is just absolutely criminal at that level, and for it to comedy, awkwardness and hilarious act of the goal following, and I just have to add them both in.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout, to be fair, honest. So I've gone for Matthijs Glick from Leeds for his penalty.
I was going to go on that one.
Just because he changed his penalty run up from earlier in the season, and he's made himself look silly, and he's cost his team 3 points. Is the my main thinking. And as we said, we're always fair. It doesn't matter if players play for Leeds, Cardiff, Swansea, Middlesbrough, whoever. If they're good, they're good. They're bad, they're bad. So what have you got for your first up, mate?
My first stop, I was all over this when I watched it. I watched it back about 4 or 5 times, but it was the Millwall captain, Alex Pearce. He QPR was just about to score quite a relatively decent open goal, and he threw his body in front of the ball to clear it. I just thought he just put his body on the line to stop a certain open goal, and I just thought for a player to do it, for a captain just to show his determination and desire, you know what I mean? I was all over it. At the time, it was 0-0. It took them in a, you know what I mean? And I was so disappointed in the end that obviously they lost through a goalkeeping mistake, because that deserved a point, or deserved the 3 points for him just to be able to do that. So Alex Pearce, the Millwall captain, for just pure determination.
Good shout. I like it. Something a bit different as well, rather than just a goal. I like it. Yeah. So I've gone for Bakuna from Cardiff.
Oh, nice.
I slaughtered him last week because I was very, very disappointed with how he had played.
Rightly so, though, Si. Rightly so.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
Yeah. I just thought he was everything which he did on Saturday was done to an extremely high standard. He controlled the tempo of the game. He stopped Middlesbrough from getting a foot in the midfield a lot of the time. And I know you'd like to say Middlesbrough weren't great, but I thought he had a lot to do with that, and he used the ball a lot better than he had the week before. And I just thought everything which he did was at a high standard and helped control the game for Cardiff. So even though it was only 1-0, it meant that they were never really under a great deal of pressure where you thought, oh, Middlesbrough are going to nick one. And who you got for your last one, mate?
My second one, I've gone for Che Dunkley, so Wigan's centre-half, who scored 2 excellent goals on Saturday. I thought his volley was exquisite. I thought it was excellent. You know what I mean? For a centre-half to score a goal like that, technique was excellent. I thought his second goal, determination and desire to get ahead of the centre-half to score a second goal was excellent. So I've gone for Che Dunkley.
Yeah, I narrowed it down to 3. I had Che Dunkley, and I had Naki Wells, and then I had Carvalho from Forest for the through ball for Watson. And I decided on through ball because I just thought it was great vision, weight, and everything, and it won the game. Nice. And I've given Naki Wells, I think, about 3 times this week, this season already. So there we go. And just to finish off, we got only a couple of questions this week, so we'll do some Q&As. Okay, so who's the most animated manager you've ever played under? #hairdryer.
Oh, most animated. I'll go Sam Allardyce. Sam, I was on loan at Bolton, and when Sam lost it. You knew about it. You know what I mean? You absolutely knew about it. But he did it. He did it. He also sometimes did it when you won as well. So you know what I mean. So it wasn't always you're getting beat, you're getting it. You know what I mean. So he knew when you could do better. He'd come in and shout and scream, "Well done!" So you didn't know if you were in trouble or not in trouble. So it was always quite a surreal moment. So yeah, Big Sam did it for me, and scared me to death at times, but also entertained with doing it as well. So I think that's why he's successful, because he got the best out of players, and got the best out of his teams.
Yeah, character as well, isn't he? Who did you prefer playing with, Peter Thorne or Robert Earnshaw? As in, who did you prefer, like, playing alongside in a starting 11?
When I played, it was probably easier for me to play with Thorny, because obviously that we played at Cardiff, we played a little bit direct at times, and Thorny was the big player and won every head and won every flick on. So it was easy when I played with Thorny and Leo. You know what I mean? So it was my game. So you know what I mean, when me and Ernie played together, we were quite similar. That we made the same kind of runs, and we played quite similar positions. So it was quite difficult. You know what I mean? When all 3 of us played together, when me, Leo, and Ernie played together, when me, Thorny, and Ernie played together. It worked because we both played either side of Pete, and our runs were off him. But yeah, it was difficult because at the time it wasn't this one man up front and three men behind. It was 4-4-2, or you know what I mean. It was big man, little man, and that was the way that football was expected, or was the way that we did it. And you know what I mean. It was successful, and that's why that Ernie and Thorny had such a successful partnership together as well.
I think Peter Thorne is one of the most underrated players to ever play for Cardiff. Good.
He was excellent. And do you know what? Such a nice guy as well. You know what I mean? Such a lovely fella. You know what I mean? And fit, healthy, looked after himself, and you know what I mean. He was such a towering presence in the change room, but not a massive talker. You know what I mean? Everyone knew he was there, but didn't always come across vocally. You know what I mean? So it was just such a lovely fella.
Top man. And the last one, which has got absolutely nothing to do with football. What's the best TV series of all time? There you go. That's from Cheers.
Right. Okay. The best TV. Oh, in my opinion, I'm going to go for Max and Paddy, because I was talking about it the other day, and on my journey back to Middlesbrough from Cardiff, and you know what I mean, on these 5-hour drives or 6-hour drives, I think it was yesterday, that you start talking about some absolute rubbish and getting a bit delirious. And we were talking about Max and Paddy, and I'm going to find it later on tonight and have a little bit of a watch of a couple of episodes, because I remembered it from years ago, and it was something that I loved. Love Paddy McGuinness, and I'm going to watch it later on, so I'm going to go for that one.
Yeah, controversial maybe. I preferred that Phoenix Knights with Peter Kay.
Yeah, well, that is controversial.
It is, because everyone loves. I'm not a massive Peter Kay fan.
No, I'm not. But I'm a big Paddy McGuinness fan. I've seen him live, and when he did his tour. And he's such a funny guy, and you know what I mean. I think obviously it's the spice of life, isn't it? You want to be entertained, and you know what I mean. You want to laugh, and you want to just enjoy yourself, and he's up there with being one of the funniest people at the minute. I think he's hilarious.
Yeah, he just comes across as a guy who you could just have a pint with, doesn't he? And I think they tend to be the guys which appeal.
Yeah, there's an offer. We'll have a pint. Me, you, and Paddy McGuinness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For that. Definitely. So, that's the championship for this weekend. Guys, you can see the video version of this show and all the other shows that we do at youtube.com/ACEpodcastNation. We got 3 new shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got the new MMA show coming soon. You can download audio versions at loads of different audio podcasting apps and catchers, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all that good stuff. You can follow Andy on Twitter at Andy Campbell 32. You can follow me at ACEcast_nation and Facebook.com/ACEcastNation. And give us a thumbs up, give us a message, share the video, say hello, send questions for next week, and we'll see you for next week's show. Thank you, Andy, for joining me again, mate.
Top man, enjoyed it.
We'll see you all next week, guys. Cheers.
Top man, see ya.